Dog Nation, dognation.com, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, all those different platforms, Cox Media Group. We're all here as a family to wish you Merry Christmas. And we're not going to wish you a Happy New Year just yet. We're going to get out to Pasadena before we do that. But I am here with you tonight to bring you another episode of Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza, voted America's favorite pizza company. As you know, you can visit marcos.com for authentic Italian pizza delivered directly to you, as it is delivered directly to me, and it is delicious. And we thank them at Dog Nation for being such a fantastic sponsor and for making such great pizza. Welcome, everybody. Like I said, Merry Christmas. We're almost there. Football, it never stops, but you throw in a Rose Bowl and college football, playoffs, and then an early signing period in football in the middle of it. I know I've been a little harried just trying to get some Christmas shopping done. I couldn't imagine what it's like for Kirby and his staff and all the college football coaches across America. They are well compensated for what they do, but there is no value that you can put on being with your family and spending time with your loved ones. And I know that's very, very difficult for them right now. But the bonus is, I know all of you guys probably want to talk about tonight, and let me try to get your comments up here pretty quick so we can start talking about it, is the recruiting scene. That's certainly dominated all of our conscious here lately. Certainly has dominated Georgia. Yep, sorry about that. There we go. I always forget to mute. Sophisticated system here. Got my iPad over here. Got my PC over here. My Mac. Thank you to Mac. If Mac wants to send me more Mac products for Christmas, please do. Hello, everybody. Hello, Cody Ratcliffe, J. Cody Ratcliffe, Ease Brown, Jennifer Wheat Rucker, Shane Thompson. Wow, a lot of people on here already. Thanks. We'll talk a little recruiting tonight. Normally, I'll leave that to Jeff Sintel, but man, there is nowhere to hide, I guess, from this situation. I'm going to go ahead and cut to the chase. Hello, Daniel Shirley, Bobby Cleary, James Thomas, Derek Kicklighter. What's up, buddy? An old friend there. Randy X Factor Dean is always present. Dilly Dilly, he says, roses are falling from the sky. Everybody's in a great mood. And why not? I mean, what is there not to be excited about if you count yourself among those in the Dog Nation? These are really, really heady times. These are really, really rich times. And, as we're learning this afternoon, Georgia has gotten yet another couple of signees here in this early period that coaches didn't want. We didn't want to be dealing with this in December. We didn't know it would be. We thought it would be kind of a small, quiet time where some of the most, assured commitments could go ahead and sign their paperwork. It's turned out to be something much, much more than that. Hello, Jeffrey Tucker. Mark Andrews Sr., no relation, I'm assuming, to Mark Andrews, the tight end at Oklahoma, who won the Jim Mackey Award as best tight end in the country. Are you Mark Andrews Sr.? Bobby Rathman, Kathy Hobbs Huggins. There's just a whole lot of people in here, but let's talk about this recruiting class. So the latest, by the time I was checking out at Butts Mayer Heritage Hall yesterday, they had just received the paperwork of Nadab Joseph, the four-star defensive back, cornerback, I think he is, 6'1", 180 out of Miami, flipped from Alabama right there in the 11th hour. Now, you never know what those flips are all about. Sometimes it's the kid doing the flipping. Sometimes it's the school chilling out on them, such as what happened with Georgia and the guy that ended up at Ole Miss, the wide receiver. But he is obviously a good player. Then today comes the news that Luke Ford, the number 2 tight end in the country, has signed on the dotted line. That's what's so different about this thing. It used to be a commitment and you still had to babysit them and hang on to them. No, these guys are signed, sealed, and everything but delivered. A lot of them coming as early enrollees. I don't know about these latest guys. I know about the rest. Luke Ford, tight end. Carterville, Illinois, chose Georgia over Bama, and Texas A&M, number 2 tight end in the country. I don't know if that makes him a 5-star. He probably has some 5-star mentions somewhere. If he's any short of a 5-star, that's 7 5-stars for Georgia in this class. And then yesterday, a lot of people were a little confused by Channing Tindall, the linebacker out of Columbia, South Carolina, who committed to Georgia yesterday. Well, he's actually, in fact, sent his paperwork in today. So he is officially a Georgia Bulldog. So add him to a list. I believe our producer, Mark LeBlanc, had a list up here a while ago of all our signees, but Adam Anderson, Jake Camarda, Owen Condon, dude I went out and met in Oklahoma City, James Cook, the running back out of Miami, Brenton Cox, Warren Erickson, Justin Fields, John Fitzpatrick, DeAndre Trey Hill, Kieris Jackson, who I met down in Macon recently, Cade Mays, a big late get away from Tennessee because of their issues, Aziz Ajulari, hope that's pronounced correctly, Jamari Sawyer, I know that's pronounced correctly, Christopher Smith, a DB I actually met last year down at Hateville Charter High School, Zeus, otherwise known as Zamir White, Devad Wilson, I'll get these pronunciations eventually, and Devontae Wyatt, who, as it turns out, I met him. I did a Next Generation profile on Devontae last year down in Decatur. He was out at Towers High School, but he had changed schools, but then he went to Hutchinson. I mean, because he's already working out with the Bulldogs. So a whole lot to be excited about with Georgia's recruiting class that I believe is now number 1, ranked above Ohio State on the 24/7 composite rankings. We go by 24/7's rankings because they are a composite. They're an average of all the recruiting classes. Suffice it to say, it is one of the best recruiting classes in the country. Trawl Dukes here, and I don't know what he knows about it, but I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about, says Tindall is actually an underrated top guy. 9 of the top 50 players in the country. Mason Coward is pointing out unreal, he says, and it is. Deborah Walker just says, go Dogs. Happy New Year. And Emery Waller adds, it's great to be a Georgia Bulldog. And Jim Story, little dig, says, wish that Oklahoma had some good recruits. Sooners. I don't. Do I say boomer to you? I was out there this past late last week in Sooner territory, Oklahoma City and Norman, and that's what you do when you're part of the OU Nation. You say boomer, and then the other guy walking the other way in the hall says Sooner. So you'll probably hear a lot of that. But yeah, gosh, there's just so much to talk about. But the recruiting class. So first, let's cut to that, and I'll start taking your questions. I'm looking at them here. I've had a lot of people ask me, did a couple of radio interviews today. Have I ever seen anything like this in recruiting? Yes, but not quite the sustainability, like 2 years back-to-back like Kirby's done. 3 years, if you go back to what he did as a half year as a new head coach. They were number 8, I think, that year. And, you know, to their credit, Mark Richt and them had a pretty good head start on that class, and he was able to keep it together. Added some guy named Jake Fromm, you know, some throw-in quarterback from Houston County, and a few others. Kirby did. But then these last 2 years, when he's had a full year to go, Georgia is rolling. And I haven't seen it. I was reminded today of a recruiting class that I'd completely forgotten about, which was 1998. Georgia's recruiting class under Jim Donnan was kind of unreal retrospectively. Now, the rankings back then, they didn't keep them like they did today. I think Border Wars, was it? BorderWars.com might have been the only recruiting site at the time. Can you believe that? Jason Lucas says, to hell with OU. How many positions Cody Ratcliffe wants to know did you get the number 1 player at? Well, the number 1 player is, you know, flexible, but, you know, at least 3 or 4. You got the number 1 player from, I'm going to see if I can look up this 1998 class. I was looking at it earlier, but all my electronics, I'll shut you down if I try it on something other than my phone right now. But, you know, that one included Boss Bailey and John Stinchcomb and Kawika Mitchell. Y'all remember that guy, linebacker? who ended up transferring from Georgia, but all these guys ended up playing in the NFL. I'm going to try to call it up, but we won't talk. You know, I know you're more interested in talking about the current one than that one. And that class was unbelievable. And then, of course, Mark Richt, you know, in those first few years that he came in, 2002, 2003, really 2002 through 2006 were you know, very good recruiting years. But the only year that they got in the top 5 was 2006, actually, when they signed Matthew Stafford and a bunch of those other guys in the 2006 class. Georgia was 3 that year. Georgia was a consensus 3 last year. Got some 2-1 mentions. And let's see here. Yeah, here's the 1998 signing class. Yeah, Boss Bailey played in the NFL. Cat Burnett played in the NFL. Quincy Carter played in the NFL. Terrence Edwards played in the NFL a little bit, but actually became a Hall of Famer in the CFL. George Foster, Tony Gilbert was a highly rated linebacker. Nate Hibble ended up at Oklahoma. Just flipping through some of these names. Jesse Miller, the incredible player out of right down there in Sandersville. Jasper Sanks, John Stinchcomb, Tim Wansley, Will Witherspoon, all those guys played in the NFL. So that was an incredible class. I'd forgot about that one. And, you know, they didn't rank classes like they do now. You know, it was probably Max Imfinger or Forrest Davis rated them that particular year. So those, this is an incredible class, not only because of the top-heavy 5-star nature of it. At least 6 of those guys, maybe 7, depending on how you count them. But it's a very diversified class, I think, from the standpoint. It's a little bit offensive line heavy. Nobody will complain about that. I met with Owen Condon last week out in Oklahoma City. I think he's very underrated. I don't think he's a immediate impact guy, but he's a 3.9 GPA guy who is a true blue 6'6" 3/4 pounds, 303 pounds, 315. They list him here. I think he has some incredible upside. He's a really good basketball player. His father played basketball. 6'8" father played basketball. So nobody's talking about him, but certainly they're talking about Cade Mays, the 5-star flip from Tennessee. Jamari Sawyer, the #1 guard in the country out of Pace Academy. That's the difference, I would say, in Kirby's classes now, and many they had. Mike Shepard wants to know how many slots left, you know, and that, you know, based on what I know, you know, of the current roster situation, I would say 0, you know, but Kirby is really good at roster management, and I'm not critical in that regard because he's not running people off. As far as I tell, that's where I have a problem with what these guys do. Jesse Lee Kinney, Sweater Man, says basketball may get a 5-star guard tonight too. Well, we'll look and see on that. Jordan Wansley says, Tim Wansley, my Uncle Lamar had me believing he was a cousin. Yeah, Tim Wansley was great, man. He was unbelievable to see down there at Buford when Dexter Wood was the coach, I believe. I got to go see him play early in my incarnation with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as a state preps writer. Jennifer Wheat Ruggles, no, where's Jeff? Y'all, let me tell you, reach out to Jeff in any way you can. Y'all, Christy Bedell Morell is watching. That's my girlfriend. Y'all say, hey. Y'all reach out to Jeff Sintel. The dude has absolutely been burning it at both ends. I imagine he's crashed out somewhere right now. I hope he is. I hope he has not crashed because he was working on very little sleep yesterday as he was flying around 285, getting from one announcement to another. And I got to be honest with you. I mean, none of us really expected that this, you know, early recruiting period to turn out to be quite like it is. I mean, Georgia, I guess at this point has over 80% of its class signed. I don't know that any of us expected that, but that's kind of what it's turned into. And it's, you know, it's kind of like basketball recruiting now. If you haven't signed in the early period, everybody's wondering what's wrong with you. What's your holdup? And that's kind of what Kirby and these coaches have done on some of these elite recruits. They want them, if you're committed to us, then go ahead and sign. No reason not to, and that's what they have. Yeah, 6 5-stars for now, Philip Jordan Wells points out. And, you know, some real hidden gems in here, too. You know, these guys besides these 5-stars, you know, the Camarda kid's going to be interesting to look at out of Norcross. He's your kicker punter. And I would say probably more than anything, you know, he's going to come in and be given a chance to compete for the punting position. Now, he'll be given a chance to compete with Rodrigo Blankenship. At this point, I think Hot Rod's going to be tough to beat out. And he actually shared the place kicking duties some at Norcross. It's interesting. You look at his numbers. He was 5 of 10 on field goals. And a lot of people will be, well, that's not very impressive. But I believe every one of his field goals that he attempted were over 50 yards. They had another kicker that Keith Maloof shared time with over there, and they would let him kick some extra points and stuff like that. But punting, obviously, you lose Cameron Nozalek, who has come through in such a big way as a transfer from Columbia, and Marshall Long, of course, is there, but he was redshirted this year, and we'll have to see if he can come back from that injury and be the punter that everybody expected him to be when he signed. And he is on scholarship out of North Carolina. So we'll see what happens on that. James Cook, the running back out of Miami, you know, the brother of the Cook kid from down at Florida State, you know, almost a secondary thought with Zamir White, who's got the knee injury. Kirby was asked about Zeus and whether he thought he'd have an opportunity to play, and you know, he was just like, I got no idea. You know, I mean, the good news is he is coming in as an early enrollee. There could be 8 to 10 early enrollees in this class, and that's where you get in some complicated roster management, because if these guys come in and enroll in the, I guess it's technically spring semester, if they enroll for that, you still have to be under 85 overall. And that's what happened to Tennille Carter last year. Y'all remember him, the running back out of Houston, who actually had a good freshman year at the University of Texas. Something had to give, and he ended up being the guy out of there. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, yeah, there's some breaking news up on the Dog Nation site that Seth Emerson posted a little while ago that Nate Trez is in fact out for the Rose Bowl. I don't think that's a surprise by anybody who's watched this whole scenario closely. I've been pretty open and honest about my feelings on that here in this forum, and really in all forums. Though I haven't really written all that much about it as a Towers Take as a column in the paper. But he's getting treatment. Nate Patrick is, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's an obvious thing. I'm sure the treatment is probably part of his conditions of his court. He was considered to be in violation of his probation just for being in that car with somebody where pot was found, regardless of test or anything else. And the kid's getting treatment and won't play. And I think that's the right decision. Now, the key on the Natrez Patrick saga is going to be going forward. What happens with him? I know, I'm sure Kirby wants him back for his senior year at Georgia. I don't know whether that's going to happen. I don't think the latest news, and let me access my Dog Nation app here and see, but I don't believe that. Yeah, he just won't play in the Rose Bowl. I don't think there's been anything in terms of his team status. Georgia is saying that everything that's happening with him outside of their own test and everything, and their own conditions and policy had nothing to do with whatever's going to be meted out team-wise. So I would suspect, based on just the way things are setting up, that he would be welcome back next year, whether that's with a probation attached, I mean, a suspension attached, I don't know. Probably not. They're saying that he wasn't in violation. So Georgia needs him. I mean, from a football standpoint, and I know Kirby is not thinking just from a football standpoint. I know they want to get the guy well, but Georgia's going to need help at linebacker. And losing Reggie Carter and Roquan Smith off of this team is going to be a big blow. Joe Rush asked here, could Natrez declare? Certainly he could. I wouldn't imagine he will because, first off, all of this is going to affect his draft status negatively. And I don't think it would be a wise thing for him to do. I think the best thing he can possibly do maybe is get this treatment, stay in school, show that he can be a good citizen, show that he is not addicted to marijuana and can live without it because it is against NFL policy, too, right now. It is. And Mike Shepard, I saw your comments on Twitter today and everything else. This is significant. So I don't care what you say. Starting inside linebacker and this stuff going on is newsworthy. And we're going to cover it until the news is completed. So we'll write less about it now, but we're going to continue to write that Georgia will be playing without their starting linebacker against Oklahoma in the national semifinal. That's not something we gloss over. So if you're tired of listening to the news about it, because we don't just chirp the same news, we only report on it when there's something new to report or whether it's significant or applicable, and then we're going to report about it. So if you don't want to read about it, you don't have to read about it. But I think your comments are out of line and silly, actually. I mean, we're not going to ignore the negative news. And we're not going to ignore the good news either. If you look at what's written on our website, 90% is positive news. So moving on from that, the recruiting has just been unbelievable. And the thing about it is Kirby's already rolling up his sleeves for January, talking about the battles that they're going to be in. I would imagine at this point, Georgia has 22 signees at this point. Is that correct? 21 signees at this point. So I don't think there's any doubt that you're going to get a full boat of 25, and how they fit them in is going to be, that's Kirby's job. That's why he gets gets paid the big bucks. Wayne Taylor says bye. He's out of here. See you, Wayne. Tyler Jenkins, thank you very much. I mean, it's just we got a job to do, man. It's good news. It's bad news. It's tickets. It's roster. And hey, it's a great time to be a Georgia Bulldog. I realize that, and I'm happy for Georgia. I'm glad to be doing this. I can't wait to get to Pasadena today. I had a great conversation. I spoke with Libby Fennell, I believe her name is. She is the president of the SoCal Bulldog Club. That's really not what they're called. They're the Southern California Alumni Association. You talk about some people that are excited about Georgia being the Rose Bowl. This lady drives by the Rose Bowl every day to go to her job. She's a UGA graduate and originally from Valdosta. You'll be able to read more about her when I write this story in the future, but in the next couple of days. But anyway, she is just beside herself about Georgia coming out there. She tells me that there's 7,000 UGA alumni in Southern California or Greater California, one of the two. I have to go back and listen to what she says. But let's see. Oops. What was that comment? I missed it. Somebody wanted to know something about recruiting. Let's see. Anyway, Wayne Taylor was telling Natrez Patrick bye, not telling me bye. Yeah, who replaces Kevin? That's what it was. Who replaces Kevin Shearer? I don't know at this point. I don't think Kirby's worried about that right now, since Kevin Shearer has agreed to coach the outside linebackers through the national championship game, should Georgia make it, and I think they will. So I'm sure he's not, with everything else they've had going on with recruiting and everything. I mean, maybe he's got some feelers out. I'm sure Kirby himself has been inundated with interest in the position. And Georgia's recruited their butts off with outside linebackers. I mean, again, talking about this recruiting class, you obviously have Adam Anderson, a 5-star kid. Brenton Cox. You have Aziz Ojulari. That's 3 outside linebackers right there. And you got a pretty good returning group coming in there. We only have a few minutes left, so let me get some of your questions. Hit me. Matt Field says Kirby signed a rare breed for sure. Excited, including the Rose Bowl and hopefully national championship. Chubb and Michelle and all the other seniors deserve recognition they have never received. I don't know if those seniors haven't received the recognition they deserve, but they certainly received a lot of recognition from Kirby and by default, from us and the media and everything else. Those guys have been unbelievable contributors. And, hey, that's part of the transition on next season. 31 seniors, including walk-ons. Obviously, everybody knows about Chubb and Michelle, Carter, Bellamy, Dominique, Aaron Davis. It's a big group, Jeb Blazevich, of seniors going out. That's tough to replace, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on that junior class to carry that torch. And it's a much smaller junior class that Georgia has and doesn't really have the star power that I've seen certainly among these seniors going out. So that'll be a transition period, but you got a lot of young talent, so that may be able to overcome it. Let's see, what else do we have? Jennifer Wheat Rucker has been all after me here. She says, "Power of the pen, huh, Chip?" I don't know. I think she must have the thought that we have some objective or agenda on all this, and I hope she knows and everybody knows there's nothing of the sort. I mean, I have opinions on things as to whether they should be there or not. Oops, we only have 1 minute left, I'm being told here. Let me get some more questions. Trawl Dukes wants to know if early enrollees affect how many spots you have left. It affects you in total. They can count toward last year, but I don't think you had anything left last year. But you can't ever be over 85 in the whole of how many people you have in school on aid, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Tony Jackson, you made it. Just barely, man. We're about to sign off here. We got less than a minute. Tram Dickerson says Rice looks good. Now, I think Monty Rice and Nate McBride will have to pick up the slack at linebacker, but that's a lot of slack that's going to need to be picked up with Roquan and Reggie Carter moving on. And certainly they can move some positions around as well. And I think Tay Crowder does a good job too. Hank Butler says Wyatt will not play. No, he won't. He's not eligible to play. He's just working out with the team, which is great for him. That's what's permissible. He was actually in pads yesterday and had been here a few days. Eric Bernard Clark points out what we already said at the top of the hour, that Luke Ford signed today, another great tight end. And Georgia's keeping those tight ends coming in. And Gary Armour talks about how blessed the Bulldogs are, and that is, at this time of year, we need to definitely think about all the blessings. I'm kind of in the position that I'm going to have to wrap up now. Thank you. Sorry, John Snow Least wants to know, miss you eating pizza. And again, they're bringing it a little bit earlier, and I'm eating it a little bit earlier, and I'm leaving it downstairs, not in my upstairs office. Jeff Sintel just showing up. Jeff, where you been, man? We're about to sign off. And I saw my buddy Joey Tucker on here a while ago, and I'm sorry, Joey, I missed your question there. I wanted to get it. Trey, okay. Trawl says call him Trey. All right, Traw, but it's Trey. So that means we're going to have to go. My thanks to Marco's Pizza, who's been such a terrific sponsor this year. Thank you for sponsoring Towers Takes, not just on Facebook Live, but on DawgNation.com. Y'all reach out to Seth and to Jeff Sintel. Both of them have really been busting it to bring you lots of content. Thank you, Maurice Carter, Tony Jackson, Kevin Clark, Jill Cobb Burke wants to know about Gibbs. So does everybody. As far as we know, he's on the team and just dealing with some other issues at the moment. But I want to thank everybody for following us here on Facebook. Continue to follow the Dawg Nation page. Everything we write gets posted here, and you can hit a link to the Dawg Nation site, and look for us on your app. And we will be out in Pasadena before you know it. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays if that's not your thing. And thanks for hanging out with us at Dog Nation. Good night, everybody.